Okay, so welcome to today's stream. You might have noticed straight away that things look a little bit different here. The format of the stream today is going to be slightly different to what we've seen, where we're going to have this video playing below me. Let me know if there's any issues with the audio. We're on a slightly different setup. As always, we're constantly trying to improve things with the stream quality here. With that said, we are trying to stream video here at the same time, so potential issues with codecs and all that sort of stuff, but looking like we should be good, so that's all good. I'm joined by Adam. Adam, if you want to say hello.
Hello, everybody.
And yeah, so you might have seen from the title and the description that the idea of this stream, we thought it'd be really cool to actually show you how we make our sort of 2-minute trailer that you might have seen on the trailer for the YouTube channel. This is the trailer where we follow a couple of players through a journey of creation and play. All of that trailer, I don't know if it was apparent, but that entire trailer was actually filmed within Crayta. Adam, myself, and our video artist Rick spent quite a few weeks, if not months, sort of planning, doing a lot of technical work and planning. And we basically hear what we're in now and what you can see in the game within Crayta that allows us to kind of film this trailer. What we're going to do is we're going to play clips of the trailer, then we're going to sort of tap through and show you almost how we achieved these shots and the things that we've had to build as components within Crayta, just to kind of show you the power and flexibility and almost the way we've managed to do a lot of problem solving along the way. So, okay, so I think what might be interesting first thing, Adam, is if we just kind of have a quick run around of the world itself.
Sure.
So you might recognize a lot of this if you've seen the trailer, especially, and if there's not already a link description, we'll get a link description, or maybe a mod throw it into chat for someone to have a look in after. So you'll notice it's kind of similar to what you might have seen. So there we've got the saloon in the background, this sort of jungle and desert idea, but there's also a lot of additions. So we've got some things like these basketballs and traffic lights and bullets and all these different things up in the background that are that are kind of parts of how we built the world. So hopefully by the end of this it'll be a little bit clearer. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly play the first little clip, and then Adam, maybe do you want to talk a little bit about the characters of the trailer?
Yeah, sure. So as Russ starts playing the video, you'll see the first character we see there. We didn't really come up with proper names for them, but we sort of nicknamed them Basic and Advanced because this trailer is actually sort of a very short story about two players. We've got this basic player that we see at the start, who sort of spawns into this world that's only just started to come to life, and he kind of represents a new player to Crayta. So he's someone who hasn't really played the game before, but he wants to come in and create his first game. And then we've got our other character that we nickname Advanced, and she's, like an experienced creator. She's made a lot of games herself and sort of helps him to build up this world. And actually she brings in a few other characters as well that you see throughout the trailer to help build up this world. And actually you can see all their drones in this part as well. So it's sort of the story of how she helps guide this new player through learning Crayta through both creating and playing the games.
Yeah, cool. And I think that was kind of the key, at least at first. Maybe we could even just go run down to this the sort of set where bit quite
Sure.
interesting. But yeah, we were kind of really keen to have a bit of a narrative for the trailer. Oh, we're not going to make it. Okay.
Oh no, is it? Oh, you didn't say how far away that one was.
I think that was further. We probably had wizardry to get down there in the past. What we can do actually is we can just flip to the advanced mode, fly over there and put our characters down there, can't we?
Yep. So I think it's worth saying at this
There we go.
point, in case anyone's wondering why we have this extra bit of grassy terrain down there, that actually there's sort of 3 parts to this world that we just kept all in the same place for simplicity. So we've actually got the main set you could see up there with like the desert side and the jungle side and the temple and saloon. But then off to the side here, we've got our more simple set, which is where basic first spawns. And then, as we'll see later over on the other side of the world, we've got another set like this, which is where advanced spawns and walks in and all the trees drop down around her.
Yeah, so if I would just play that start bit of the clip again, and you should sort of hopefully recognize the background. And these are the rocks and trees that we see fall in. We'll go into a little bit more detail later about how we achieved those sort of things falling in from around the world. Okay, cool. Right, we should fly back up here. I think the next kind of most interesting shot, especially, is to perhaps, like while we're here, why don't we just talk a little bit about the environment itself? So, the trailer starts. If I just go back and I'll pause it at the start. So here we can see we've actually got a really decent looking, quite a long stretching looking set, but actually using our horizon, set itself's relatively short, and it's just a nice. We've done this several times in the trailer. We've actually using our kind of really high quality horizon work, sort of with the jungle inner and that mountain outer, and this sort of close up voxel mesh. We actually managed to create some really interesting, really big, deep looking worlds, without having to kind of account for too much of an environment to load in the game. It's just one of those tricks that straight away we kind of thought, yeah, really cool. And again, we had things like these trees just sort of floating off in the background, just to give that sort of layer of that sort of depth perception. So here we see on the video we've got the trees that look quite large there, and these are actually our big trees that are floating off just slightly behind the set there. So that works really nicely. Okay, so if we just play the trailer on a bit more, and we'll fly over to the other side now. Okay, so here in the trailer we can see our character walking forwards and being joined by a bunch of friends. So again, Crayta is, it's all about collaboration. It's all about having fun with your friends, and that was kind of something we were really keen to make sure we captured. So we wanted to really make sure we captured that in the trailer as well. So obviously having a player spawning and bringing all their friends with them was. Adam, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about the advanced set here?
Yeah, sure. So we can see there's all the trees and the rocks that you see drop in, but there's a few other things as well of interest here. So Russ, if you just wander over to where my character is at the start of the path.
Yep.
So this is actually where advanced starts, and she sort of walks in a straight line down here, or I guess jogs. And you can see we've actually got these sort of basketballs and bullets. So I made a sort of camera spline package so that objects can move on a smooth spline. In this case, it's pretty much just a straight line, but actually we use it for the saloon build shot and the action shot as well, which we'll see later. But you can see that these bullets sort of point in the direction that the camera is going to move, and then we've actually got this camera mesh as well. And now when we play this shot, this camera mesh will hide for the actual person who's doing the filming, but it shows up for everyone else, which means that as Advanced walks forward, she can see exactly where the camera is, and all the other players that spawn around her can see that as well, which is really useful.
Yeah, because I think this was one of those shots that we had to repeat several times, didn't we? We were doing it over and over again to try and work out timings of when players should spawn. And I think one thing there that's really was a nice trick was the ability to hide the meshes on specific clients. So you made it so whoever was actually the cameraman or was filming their screen as the camera couldn't see the camera mesh, couldn't see all the basketballs, bullets, and the things that all the other players needed to sort of help guide them in the right direction, or timing for where they need to be. We actually managed to hide all that stuff, and that was a really nice little trick that helped us quite a lot throughout the whole thing.
I don't know if you wanted to show this shot at
Yeah,
this point.
yeah, that's probably a good thing to do actually. So I'm just going to hit so we'll jump into the editor. While that's going, we'll just go back, play part of that. So another thing we'll kind of come to is the UI that you see. So we see the big create games with friends appear in the background. That's actually, again, that looks like it could have been done in post. We could have added that sort of thing in Photoshop quite easily. But we decided, from the start of this project that actually wanted as much of this to be about the about Crayta itself and the power of Crayta. So we said we need to make sure everything is done in Crayta. So those white boxes that you see are actually the white text you see are actually in-world 3D UI with a sort of CSS animation to open. And all those things, again, are timed on the same scheduler that affect when the camera starts moving, when players should start spawning in, when that appears. And the beauty of doing that sort of system, where we wrote our Lua scripts, took hours to do that we could repeat this shot over and over again. And we knew that just with sort of tweaking numbers, we could reproduce the exact same shot. So once we were happy with that, we could just run through it as many times as we wanted, which, just saved us a lot of time.
Okay, Russ, I'm in position, pretending to be advanced here.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit. So Adam wrote a lot of this camera stuff, and we've got sort of various shortcuts, and all of this that Adam wrote also works really well on a controller. But I'm going to switch. So now you'll see my play has disappeared, and I've sort of switched to this other cam. So I'm going to go switch to track player mode. So Adam wrote this so that we can track players with the camera, or we can switch to certain parts. So I think here we go. I'm in place now, Adam. Get in front.
Sure. I think it's about here.
About there, yeah. And then I should be able to now just press go. And what that's going to do is that's going to tell the scheduler everything that needs to happen. The camera will start moving. This is the trick, is trying to time your...
Yep. I think at some point Advance ran off towards the
there
side.
There you go, yeah. So we see all
something
the things,
like that.
All the things falling in. We might not see the text at this point because I think we'd moved that for some extra filming. But the text would have appeared and disappeared. All the things fall in. And then at this point, it's just straightforward, is press the button to sort of reset that shot. I can press it again once all of our actors get back into place. And we can just repeat the shot. And again, all of this is done Lua engine. So we've got cameras that we're moving. We've got all these entities that are falling from the sky. Maybe we could show one of the scripts or a couple of the scripts for this one, Adam, because I know you spent quite a lot of time trying to perfect the little bounce. It's all these little details that, and again, all done within Crayta or within the Lua scripting. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to talk about now with that.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth going back to the editor, and we'll start having a look at the scheduler and all these different moving parts and how they work.
Jumping back now.
So if you want to go and have a look at the scheduler for this advanced walk first.
Yeah, okay then.
I think it's imaginatively named Advanced Walk Scheduler.
Yep, that would make sense.
And while you're finding that, I'll just talk a little bit about the scheduler. So that's a sort of very flexible, reusable package that we wrote within Lua, which basically takes a sort of array of different events that happen at certain timestamps that you can set on the script properties itself. So you can sort of say after 1 second, camera starts moving. After 2 seconds, all the trees fall. After 3 seconds, all the rocks fall, and so on. And we've used that, in probably 6 or 7 places across this world.
Yeah, so here I'm just pulling it up now. So we have this advanced walk scheduler. And I think just another thing to slightly backtrack to is the importance of the world tree in this, and how actually we managed to really keep the world tree clean and organized, which just helped the project infinitely. Obviously, sort of within game development, within Crayta, having that world tree to organise things. But there we've got our advanced walk scheduler locator, which is just a 3D position we can attach things to. So here we have this scheduler script with all sorts of properties attached to it. So the events it's going to trigger, for example, is an array of arrays, I believe.
It's an array of events.
Array of events.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And events themselves can take multiple things. They're sort of arrays.
Yeah. So we see that on the very first sort of event, or the very first thing to happen, is we take this entity, which is the camera, and we tell it to go, to start moving. Then the second thing will be, did you explain anything about the traffic light yet?
No, I think in this world we may have moved the traffic light for some reason. I couldn't see it.
Okay.
There should be another one.
Here. It's just under.
Oh, okay. Maybe that was an accident that someone moved it.
I think we've done some various filming around here. So.
Oh yeah. Are you moving that?
Yeah, I'll just move it back up. So we had this traffic light, and again, this was just something that the camera couldn't see, but it was timed. It's just a neat little trick Adam did. I don't know. Yeah, if you want to maybe explain a little bit how about you got this to work.
Sure. I think you moved up the wrong part. You need to move the parent. There we go.
There we go.
So it's got a little bit of text as well above it, which is just editor text, so you can't actually see that in play mode. But basically, we used a couple of these traffic lights, which are actually for our actors, if we can call them actors. So for the player that was advanced, she can stand here and then watch this traffic light. And basically, this is on the scheduler. And at some point in the schedule, basically it flips to suddenly go green, and that tells her to start moving. So obviously we can't force the player to move because it's just another human player that has to do their own actions. But this invisible traffic light, or at least invisible for the main camera, really helped with like scheduling when the other players should start doing their action.
Yeah, and I think the nice trick here again is you kind of really inventively the traffic light mesh, but because we don't have control for the individual lights, it's sort of like a mesh as it is. You've actually made this little sort of voxel prop, so this extraction of voxel that will move up and down and expose the right lights, which was just, when I first saw it, I just thought it was such a trick. And again, that kind of really helps show the power of Crayta.
Yep.
But yeah, so do you want to maybe just talk a little bit more about the scheduler?
Yeah, so on the scheduler, have you still got it selected? Sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so if you scroll down even further, so you can see the whole list of, I think there's 16 events that happen here, and then there's a reset as well, and those can actually get called from the person who's in the camera at the moment. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, we've got a scheduler timer, which we can attach as well. So you can either manually schedule things, so you have to click through every step, or you can put on this timer, which we wanted to use so that we could repeat a shot over and over again and know that everything is happening exactly the same. And if you open this event time list, that's actually all the times between each of the events happening. Which just helps us sort of plan it with absolute precision, which is really useful.
Yeah, so it's just really nice. Again, like we could rely on the person on sort of being the camera at that point to like click through and trigger things when they do. But it was really nice to know that we could kind of get that onto the same sort of automation as everything else, so we knew exactly when it's going to trigger. And you can see that with some precision here as well. So it was like, okay, 0.8 seconds later, this needs a 0.8, and we got things to a point where it was such a science. Yeah, it was a really cool, really powerful thing that you made.
So the scheduler actually in this shot ties into the scheduled building package, which was another thing we use all over this trailer. But if you want to go over and find Village Hut Quick Build 4, Russ. Yep. So actually this is one of the buildings, and we get a specific shot of this in the trailer as well, where the camera pans around it. But this is just one of many examples of a scheduled building. And if you open that up, you can actually see on it, it's got a scheduled building script, which has an array of building layers, which are all these layers below it, and each layer can be made up of a number of pieces. And this basically allows us to schedule various layers of a building sort of flying into place. So if I simulate this, I set it up so I can simulate it, and it'll actually show you all the movement that all the pieces take.
Oh, that's. I always
So if you
forget
see
you can do that.
You can see how all the pieces can, like, where they go to and where they snap into place.
Yeah, so this
I'll
isn't
just stop that.
necessarily. Yeah, that's not necessarily how it would happen, sort of at sort of runtime, but that's just a quick test and a quick way to see. Right, these are the individual parts getting blown out like a blue.
Yeah.
Which again, so that was just you simulating that on the checkbox in the editor. So simulations are a really cool, powerful feature that we have in Crayta as well. You don't even have to always necessarily jump into the preview mode to see what's going on. You can just you can just simulate certain entities, see what would happen under the scripts. Obviously, it means that other things in the world don't interact at the same time. But if it's just something simple like that, for example, where it's like, okay, this script will do this specific thing, I'm going to that and see. So yeah, that was really cool. And again, another sort of testament to how powerful the Lua engine in Crayta can be, with sort of all these schedules and the fact that with all these quick builds and buildings throwing themselves together as well. It always created a really cool effect. And whenever we showed anyone at the office, got a bit of which is good fun.
So just one last thing to touch on with these scheduled buildings, if you still got it selected, Russ.
Yeah, I've got Village Hut Quick Build 4.
Yeah, so you briefly talked about how, the movement that we saw when simulating it isn't actually how it looks in game, which is true, because once we actually run it in game and it's part of the whole schedule, we actually have this easing function on it to make sure the pieces sort of fly into place and slam in, or in fact some of the pieces even have a bounce. So if you want to just open that out, open up front and go to flagpole left.
Flagpole left. Yep.
Yeah, so you can see
this is your piece layer. This is one of the pieces.
Yeah, so this is like the lowest level component of a scheduled building, and you can see that you can just sort of. Oh no, that one's still simulating. I think maybe if we look at the door instead, the hut door piece. You see that one?
Yeah, I've got that.
So if you look at this building piece here, you can see that we've actually got like the correct locator and the offset locator. So you can literally just move the locators around in 3D space, and that tells it where to start and where to end. And then if we open up the script for this, it's worth just having a quick look at how we get the movement to ease.
That's the building piece script.
Yeah, that's correct. So actually, if you scroll down to around line 60, you can see this move to correct function. So it'll start far out and then it moves into the correct position.
Okay, yeah.
Which is how everything slams into place. And you'll see here, I think it's here. We've actually, one of the parameters we pass to the move function is this ease type, which we actually get from a separate ease function script. If you want to just open up ease functions, you can do that with Control O, which is that really handy new feature. So you can actually see this is a separate script, so it exists separately to all of the moving pieces and the buildings and everything. But if you look further down this script, you can actually see I've set up various easing types, and we can just apply these to any movement, any change of anything really, any color change, any rotation change. So we've got things like linear, we've got bounce in, we've got circular ease in, circular ease out, and I think we use a combination of all of these across all the different buildings that we've got in this little trailer world.
Yeah, and for anyone who sort of hasn't seen Crayta before, hasn't seen the advanced mode, what we're actually doing now is we're in one of the scripts in the code editor. The code editor being built into Crayta, where we write and update all of our Lua. And again, leaning on the collaboration of Crayta, we're actually both in the script together at the same time. So as I've been looking through, you might have seen the highlights appearing. That wasn't me. That was all Adam actually picking and highlighting. So the beauty of that is obviously we can work together in real time, not just in the engine, but also we can work together in code.
Yeah, and I think that was a really key part of this, considering we had to build the whole thing sort of within one world when we were actually filming. It was really useful for us both to be able to edit the scripts if anything went wrong.
Yeah, yeah, and I think another thing just worth mentioning. As I say, we were working on this trailer for sort of weeks and months, and actually a lot of the things that we ended up writing in this trailer, things like the ease for bounce in, bounce out, it looks really complicated here. And again, that's kind of testament to how powerful it is with the math libraries. But a lot of things actually we were looking at here, we soon realised would be really useful things to have built in the engine. I'm not sure if we have them available in this build, but some things we have now for like we control a lot of timeline. So, for example, we can get timeline for movement and rotations on certain entities, so we can tell them to move over a certain time. And a lot of these easy functions have actually been built into that. So you don't necessarily have to understand all the. You just have to kind of provide a table and a list of times and positions, rotations, things like that, and the timeline will take care of it. And one thing, as I say, you can do with that is pass in how you want that to ease, and that will actually then give you the right sort of ease in, ease out off the back of it. So that was, it was quite fun. It was a fun task to try and build this sort of stuff in, and it was nice to know that that sort of stuff became useful. That we've actually as a sort of a built-in, which is quite fun.
Mm-hmm. So for anyone who saw some of those ease functions and panicked about all the maths, don't worry, they are now included.
Yeah.
You don't have to write them yourself.
Yeah, cool. Okay, should we move on to the next section? So we've kind of mentioned the hook cutaway. I think I'll just briefly flick back to that quickly. But one nice thing to take away from this is Crayta is a character-driven game. Everything is about kind of the characters, and you take your character with you at all points through Crayta. So whether that's in the editor experience or in the play experience. So we can see here we've got various different characters. I can see Adam's floating away in the really cool, slick-looking explorer's outfit. So we have a whole customization process, which we'll get to at some point in another stream. But we can, as I say, we take our characters with us everywhere. So we were really wanted to make sure that we showed in the trailer a wide variety of the emotes and outfits and various things to do with the characters.
And obviously, facepalm is my favourite one.
Facepalm is your favourite.
It's just so funny.
Yeah, you do that one to me quite a lot on our streams. Okay, so I think the next little bit to talk about, and again, it's just one of these things that we kind of, when we were talking about problem solving, that we had to try and think of the best way to do was this shot here. The next time we kind of got to a cutaway was this shot of a character kind of flicking through various meshes. Adam, I don't know if you wanted to maybe comment on this one, because I think you kind of took the lead on this
one. Yeah, sure. So I think this part of the trailer really just highlights the way you build in Crayta. So obviously it's largely based on this idea of having voxel meshes, and you can have all sorts of different voxel meshes, but they blend in with the props that we provide. And what we wanted to really show in this part of the trailer is the huge variety of different props that you can actually place. So Russ, if you want to just open up the library and go to the props tab, you'll see, I think there's something like 700 props at the moment. And that's just an ever increasing number. And we sort of bring them in different packs. So we've had things like an urban life pack, we've had a Western Frontiers pack, we've had a jungle pack. And actually, obviously, you can see quite a lot of the jungle elements coming out in this particular world. But it's this sort of collection of assets which are just pre-provided for you, but they're all in the same art style. They all look really nice and polished and work perfectly together, which just allows us to make worlds like this so quickly. And I'd say this world looks pretty good, and we're not really artists.
No. I think we did learn a lot from the art team, and we obviously did get help with that. But I think we've done, pat ourselves on the back. We did quite a good job of making it look quite. And I think the nice thing again, especially from like a problem solving point of view, is that this was one shot you didn't actually film in preview mode. You filmed this in the editor itself, didn't
you? Yeah, I did, because in preview you can't obviously like open up the library and select all the meshes. So this was a case actually where we sort of filmed the trailer across both play and edit modes. And this was one of the shots that was actually all done in editor.
Yeah, which was quite a fun little thing, again, anyone who's acquiring sort of quick little movie filmmakers, the editor does have its purposes for that side of things as well. Because we have our characters in the editor, and the editor itself feels very much like a game. There's no reason why we can't treat the editor in that way, which is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so next shot. I think we should maybe spend a little bit of time talking about the saloon build now.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna
I'll
play
just
that.
fly my drone up there.
Yeah, we'll get over there. I'll play it on the. Yeah, so.
Let me just do a quick face palm. It's just so much fun. Okay, yeah. So do we want to start by talking about the drone flyover shot here, which is very short but a very sort of important shot for the whole story behind Crayta?
Yeah. If you wanted to talk about that, that's fine.
Sure. I think it's probably best if I equip my drone at this point as well. So you can see me flying about now in my drone. So actually, right before we see the saloon build, what we wanted to say in this part of the story is that we've had all these players come in and we can see them as their characters, which for us is like the basic mode. And what's actually now happening is the characters are sort of upping the level of complexity that they're going to start building this world in. So they're switching to advanced mode, which is when they inherit or they sort of possess their drone. And you should be able to see my drone flying around.
Yeah.
Yep. So in this shot, we basically just wanted to represent that all these characters, all these friends of Advance that have arrived in this world are all now switching it up, turning it up a level, and they're going to start building something a lot more complex now. And then we sort of wanted to represent that in a dramatic way. So we basically set everyone up with a camera that we could switch to in front of this mound here. And then we did this sort of drone flyover with all these really nice drone trails behind us. So we just had about 4 or 5 drones start down here and fly right past basic and advanced. And that's just as they started to equip their drones as well.
And we had a drone down here, sort of sat looking up at the sky, and again using that sort of camera stuff. I'm just going to go to my menu and realize I don't have entity.
Okay.
Turn on my entity icon. That will help actually. So see all these sort of glowing icons now, which actually are representative of things in the world that don't have a physical representation, but things like cameras and locators. So we can actually see we have this camera positioned here with this sort of really funky looking 3D icon. And one nice thing we can do here is we can actually select this camera, and in the properties we have 2 options here. We can either move the drone to the camera, or we can move the camera to the drone. So a lot of the time actually positioning and lining up shots, the 3 of us, myself, Adam and Rick, would sort of crowd around one of the screens, and we'd fly a drone and get it kind of exactly where we wanted the shot to be, and then we would move a camera entity to match that exactly just by a click of this button. And then what was really nice that again is we had that completely reproducible shot, so we'd try and line that up every time we wanted to film it. We'd kind of move cameras into. And then because these cameras exist as entities, we can do all sorts of Lua scripts with them again. So I think we'll talk a little bit more about some advanced shots a little bit later. But again, we have these camera entities that we can use kind of the Lua scripts with, rotations, position, that sort of stuff, which again was really fun, really quick, easy. So if I say move drone here on this one, and if I just clear my UI, so you should get an idea now of actually how similar that looks to that shot of the drones flying over. I don't know if you just want to have a quick flyover, Adam.
Yep, there we go.
There we go. So we see the rails and the drones. This was quite a fun one, again, to try and line up 5 people and get them to fly over at the same time. But I think that shot came out. Right, so let's have a look at the saloon build. Back. let's go to the what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to I think if we go to preview mode at this
Yep.
and
good
I'll
idea.
try and get the camera to fly at the same time as the I have practiced this time, so see how well it goes. But it's just hopefully I'll give you a bit of an idea of just how shots work as we had to film them. Again, this was one that was quite complex and a lot of tweaking of individual times for things. So we've seen from the advanced walk, the shot where the trees and the rocks were falling, all those individual pieces. This saloon, I actually set this one up, and I think this took me a good day or two. But it was just, it kind of became like a kind of a bit of a passion for trying to get, as high fidelity as we could. So that was the world just resetting then. So I'm going to go cameras. Okay, so I think I'm in position for this one now.
Sure, and I'm just going to take the place of one of our actors in this one that runs around the saloon as it builds.
Yep, no problem. So if I go to and then hit action, so we should see the two shots build side by side. So this is just how reproducible this shot was in, because we've got everything up and drones flying around, that sort of stuff. So I see Adam in the background there. Okay, so that was, that again, the fact we can reproduce those shots was really quite crucial in filming of the trailer, and all that was made possible by the scripting. Was there anything else you wanted to mention on there? Maybe did you want to talk about the light shadows?
Yeah, sure. So if you want to reset this shot, and we can just play it again a couple of times. So we've already discussed the schedule building, and essentially for something as simple as dropping the trees down, we're using the same package here to build this entire saloon and all the scenery around it as well. And in fact, you can see even the layers of the world are dropping in, and that's all part of the schedule building as well. But the other change you'll notice to the world here is actually the sun goes down and we get a little bit of like a change of mood. We get the ambient lighting drop as well. So it sort of fades from this bright daylight scene into this more atmospheric evening scene. And that's because actually our world settings are also linked into the Lua API. So we're actually able to fade some of our world settings like the time of day and the ambient light intensity and so on, which we do all as part of the schedule as well. So that as the camera flies around this shot, you're seeing the entire world change, not just the scenery. And it's probably worth talking a little bit about the lighting that we use in conjunction with that as well. So we've got placed around the saloon, we've got a few of these braziers here, which obviously just have a little flame effect in them and a little light, which helps light up the scenery around it. But then you'll see as Russ has sort of flown around the saloon itself, you see the windows light up one by one, and the lights behind those are actually shadow casting as well. So they cast these really nice shadows against the sort of struts of the porch area, which looks really cool. And that's all sort of provided by being built on Unreal.
Yeah, and I think we maybe show a bit of lighting when we but it's super easy to add lighting to. It just kind of we include it as a primitive that you can add in. So you just kind of throw your light in, and you've got the properties with so things like the intensity, the attenuation, the color, whether it casts shadows or not, the type. So you could have a point light, spotlight, directional light. Yeah, and it all just kind of blends together to make some really nice looking scenes. I think just because of how much time this shot take, I think we need to watch that one more. Appreciate just how much is going on here, just how cool it is. And there's nothing stopping people building this sort of thing in the games.
I don't know if it's worth the time of going back to the editor and back again, but you can actually sort of watch this whole shot from any perspective as well. So I'm watching all of the building taking place just from my character's perspective running around it as well, which is a really cool way of seeing it, which you don't get to see just from the trailer.
Yeah, we could do. I'll tell you what, we'll go back to the editor and we'll talk a little bit about the action shot, which comes next. Which again was quite another technical shot. It took a lot of time for us to set up, but only because we were kind of really starting to finesse just exactly how that shot played out. And you've written some really quite cool, pretty much just your own tech for it, with the splines. Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about the action shot, and then we'll go back and do the other bits and review again?
Sure. So we touched on the sort of the crazy splines that I've set up earlier, but the first one that we showed off was literally just a straight path. So we've used the same tech here. So if you want to go up to near the mound area, Russ,
Yeah.
and you can see we've actually got this sort of slightly confusing double line of basketballs and footballs and bullets. And they're just some of the in-game props that I've used to help me sort of visualize where the path is going to go. And you can change the path literally by rotating or moving one of those points, and that actually changes how the spline works. So the big basketballs are the points that the pathing object has to go through, and the pathing object in this case is the action camera. And then the sort of blue footballs are the I think you'd call them the handles on a spline path, so they control sort of how far it comes out of each of the points and how much it curves before going into the next point as well. So that was a really handy way of setting up these cool paths. And the reason there's actually two paths here is the camera is tracking an object that's on the other path. So the camera can sort of swing around as it goes under the bridge. You'll see it sort of points upwards to look at the bridge and swings to the left as it comes out from under the bridge as well. One really cool thing we can do here, if we're watching the path, let me just find the right path in the world. Just give me a sec.
I think I know what you're about to do. It's quite cool.
Yeah, I'm going to simulate the path. So just to help us visualize the path, I actually put in a thing where if you simulate the path itself, you see all these little darts fly along it, which really helps you see exactly where the camera is going to go. I think I found it. I have indeed. So if I simulate this,
oh, the camera.
That's the wrong one. That's the camera one. Just trying to find. Oops,
but yeah, and again, all this sort of stuff was really, really crucial for like the iteration time. So the fact we could simulate things in the editor and not have to, even though it's incredibly quick getting into practice.
Yeah.
So the fact that we can see them happening in the editor is really quite.
So yeah, we can literally work out without having to go into the game every single time. We can literally work out how we want the path to look based on this big line of, I guess, darts. I think they were. And then they sort of reset and loop around, so you can just keep watching it and keep tweaking the path, which is really useful.
Okay. Yeah. So these are just our like blow dart, poison dart mesh that you see in a line.
Yeah, and these basically use exactly the same script that the camera does to follow the path. It's just each one of those has a slightly increased delay from the last one, which means that they sort of follow each other in this big long line.
Yeah, and that was, again, as you say, it was just a nice quickly get into the things tweaked and so on. Okay, so should we go back to play mode? And
I think that's a good idea.
Yep. So play now. So yeah, we'll have a look at the saloon building, sort of third person perspective, because it's quite an interesting way to see the world change around us. And then maybe I'll play the part of the basic player.
Yeah, so I think if you stay as your character,
yeah,
to see the saloon and then the action sequence, and then you can switch to the action sequence camera and show that as well. That might work quite nicely.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to take the role of the cameraman?
Sure. So what Russ did last time, where he's just sort of pressing up twice, were you on keyboard or controller for the last one? Yeah, so it's literally just you press the up arrow twice as a sort of debug function, and that puts you into the observer camera. Now I'll just find I think this is the correct camera. What was it called? The saloon build camera, that's the one.
Yes.
So if you're in position to run across the bridge.
I think so.
And then probably just wait right on the other side of the bridge and watch it from there. So when I press play on this, now you can see that other perspective, which is what all the other characters in that shot saw. So I'm actually seeing what you saw last time on Russ's screen, where he could fly around the shot.
Yeah, it's really cool from here, just getting to see like the clouds. But, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Right, you reset. Yeah, that's fine. So from here we can see kind of the clouds roll over. The sky gets a little bit more moody and dark. We see the lights and things bringing in. And again, we use this for filming in the trailer. It's quite intensive in terms of the sort of the maths and stuff. But as I say, we had to write kind of our own for this. But these sorts of things would actually make some really nice little effects in games. You're running around and you've got various meshes flying around, bouncing. That was quite a cool use of it, perhaps in games as well. Yeah, I'm quite excited to see what people do with that sort of stuff. Right. Yeah. So I'm going to come up to the mound if you trigger the action shot, and we can show people traffic lights. So the traffic light we mentioned earlier, we actually have another one here, and I've got a Chinese lantern to follow.
So that's the object that I talked about. The camera is actually tracking on the other path. It's that sort of really bright red Chinese lantern that follows along.
Okay.
So I'm going to press play, and you just run behind that, and you'll see in this shot as well, we've actually scheduled a few other things. We've got some explosions and a fire effect that goes off at the same time as all the building stuff.
And that they're all just the built-in particle effects that we just get to trigger.
Okay, you ready? And go.
Okay, following my entity. Again, this is an entity that the camera can't see.
Yeah, so all I'm seeing here is exactly what you would have seen in the trailer, only with less players this time, which is the camera following Basic along, but none of the cameras or the Chinese lantern or anything. And again, we can just reset that. It turns off all the effects, and we can just play it again and again. And I think on this one, we had to play it quite a lot of times.
Yeah, this was one that took a lot of working out kind of position characters. If the code's still in place, I believe I can press R.
And that gives you a weapon, right?
Yeah, it might.
I think it was one of the square brackets. It was one of the previous next buttons.
Oh, I've ended up with an machine gun.
There you go.
There we go. So we added a little script to the player to allow them to sort of cycle through various weapons, just to help kind of arm people. So whenever you're ready.
I assume you meant to play the shot again.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we saw the characters at this point with their weapons, so be fireable, yeah. Great. So we had the other actors that helped us with the scene actually, kind of at various positions, shooting up at various points, creating all sorts of voxel destruction.
Sorry to interrupt you there. I just went back to the editor, because what we should probably do now is switch it so you're the camera player.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can see that action shot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was a little bit lazy with scripting the camera package. I didn't make it so you can turn back into a player. So you basically have to stop and start again. So you ready?
Oh yeah, take us back. But yeah, so this was one of those shots that was kind of really fun to do in terms of getting people involved and just sort of positioning actors on the set. And it was quite strange actually how often when we were filming this, it kind of felt like I imagine a real movie set would. Like we'd have extras off at the side waiting for their roll call to come in and do their bit, and it was really interesting project to work on. But the fact we got to do it in Crayta was just extra special touch. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the camera package.
Yeah, it was pretty cool redoing some of these, not redoing, but sort of getting takes and take after take after take of things like the action shot, because we needed to call out like, okay, extras in position, ready, camera rolling, action, all of that.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. I think I'm on the shot.
Okay. If you got the camera notifications on, it'll say like the action shot camera or something.
I have a VLC player in the way.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So, okay.
This is let's just see.
So if
I press this,
you want to run the saloon build first.
I want to run that anyway. Yeah.
So that changes all the world settings, which we need before we do the action shot.
So if anyone does have any questions, we do have some moderators in the chat who will be there to answer them. So please, do be asking away. We're not ignoring you. We're just trying to get through this in a decent. Okay, so okay, here we go. I think I've got it now. Okay, so I'm going to hit go now.
Sorry.
There we go. Okay, so here we can see Adam now following, and I've got that exact reproduce camera, and we can see that I'm focusing sort of slightly off where Adam is. And the reason we wanted to do that was to make sure that he had the actors had time to sort of get in and off screen, just so they could. It just makes the shot look a lot more dynamic. We're not always following characters with environment. So yeah, that was pretty good fun shot to do. I think those two shots were kind of the biggest sort of time consuming.
Yeah, definitely.
While we're in play mode, should we just go over to the portal shots? And I might
good idea.
Play those again.
I'll just run my character up. I'll try and be the actor for these shots. It's my big silver screen moment.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing we had to do several times actually, where we could kind of reproduce in cameras and do a lot of technical over and over again. There were some shots that did require a little bit of finesse from quote unquote cameraman. And the way that we had to do this shot, for example, was I do have some control at this point, so I can press a couple of buttons to get the camera to look left and right, or I can pitch it up and down sort of in tiny increments, sort of really finesse the various shots. So if I hit play on this one, we should see various things happening. So this was quite an interesting part. It took us quite a while to sort of think how best to show the code editor experience in a sort of cinematic way. We didn't just want to show the code editor because that would have taken people sort of narrative and cinematic style of the trailer. And it took us a few attempts at various different things, and eventually we landed on actually what is quite cool. And again, sticking to our philosophy of everything has to be done in Crayta, we don't want to cheat at any point. Thought, why don't we try something in HTML, JavaScript, and use Lua? So actually, what we see here is something I sort of threw together in a weekend while I was trying to think of a good way of getting this portrayed, and actually just made a little bit of a representation of code editor in a 3D UI widget, and then using the game face middleman bindings, we could actually have a Lua script control the speed of the text, and that would push characters out to the HTML and have them to the screen. And actually, it kind of really nicely came together in a way that gave an idea of how the code editor would work without actually having to show it. So again, yeah, it was really, really quite a fun little, again, problem solving and thinking, how can we get around this problem in Crayta? And every time we had those sorts of problems, we always managed to find a way around it, which is really quite fun. Cool. So again, at any point, I can just reset this shot, and then I can go back and pull that round to the side. I can then switch to here. So are you ready to jump through the?
Oh yeah, I never acted for this one, but I'll try and get the timings right.
Yeah, I think this shot would activate. If it doesn't, again, we did do some filming in this world after the fact, so I've triggered it to go.
Okay, I think when it starts the effect, I start running.
Yeah, no, I'd say I think the effect's missing it. We get the idea again though, so reset that shot and move back. So from this shot, we kind of wanted to make sure that the portal opened up in a cool, interesting way, and all those effects and all those things you see there are just sort of built-in effects that we scheduled to come on at a certain time. So this was another case of where we would use the schedule script. Yeah, that was quite a good fun shot to do. So that kind of takes us to the end of this main hub area of the trailer. As I say, 90% of the trailer was filmed in. After this, I'll just play it here on video. So our characters then jump into like a play montage. So we've covered a lot of creation at this. We thought it'd be really interesting to sort of run through various games. Adam, did you want to just talk a little bit about the camera that we chose to go with here?
Yeah, so for anyone that's just watched that little bit that Russ played there, what we're trying to say in the narrative here is that Basic has sort of been shown how to create games by Advanced and all the friends that have joined in. But at this point, he needs to be introduced to the rest of the world of Crayta, which essentially is the play side, really, where you go and play everyone else's games. So we wanted to show off a sort of variety of games, but in quite a unique way. And we had this idea that we can see Basic running through games, and he doesn't really sort of interact with the world. We see everyone else interact around him, but he just runs, and the game sort of switches around him as he keeps moving forwards. And I think we go through, is it 7 games?
Yeah, it's around 7, yeah.
Yeah, but the key thing we wanted to get was we show each of these different games, but we need exactly the same camera angle on Basic, or it would be too jarring when we switch between one game and the next. And we had to sort of line up the running animation and everything as well. So what we needed was a way to ensure that the game ran as normal and all the other players could do the normal game actions, like I think there's digging air cons out of ice or turning into props and things like that. But we needed Basic to keep this consistent movement. So we actually made a sort of separate camera package for him, and he has a separate camera attached to him. And we set up so there's a specific username in each of the games that can use this package. So that would be the person who sort of plays the advanced character when we got these shots, and they can switch to this different camera, which is a sort of fixed 90-degree angle behind him, so that we can keep this consistent camera shot throughout each of the 7 games. So Russ, have you joined this editor now?
No, I'll jump across. So I think what we'll do is we'll go across to that. So if I just go into the sort of main menu, and I can quickly jump across to other things. So Sanctum Play Montage.
That sounds like the one.
Okay, so as we said, sort of obviously Crayta's a game development engine, and a big part of it is just being able to jump across the various games quite quickly. So we can see already just through a couple of clicks in the main menu, me and Adam's there with his famous face palm.
Love
we're
it.
here in a sort of jungle game that we made a while ago, sort of like a traps, puzzle, adventure game sort of thing. So if I get my draw. So we'll maybe just show a little bit about how this sort of worked, but oh,
nope,
character over. Okay. Yeah, so as you say, we had to sort of change the world slightly just to allow us to sort of film easily. So we didn't particularly want the actors to be killing us every time that we're trying to film. So I think we take the damage off those.
I think we took the collision off. Yeah, so they kill you on collision in the normal version of this game, right. But we took all that off just so we could film it without dying all the time.
Yeah, no, I think that was like that straight down.
I fell into the lava. It's just an editor; it's safe enough.
But yeah, okay. So I guess if we go to preview mode then, and we can show that camera angle.
Yep.
So this was another camera package. So we've referenced the packages a couple of times. Actually, what's really nice within Crayta is we have a sort of community asset browser that allows players to share packages of templates and assets. So Adam actually made a lot of his things like the camera stuff of this camera. All of that was shared or created in sort of his own little workshop kind of game, published up into this community space, which allows players to then download them in their own games. So that just meant, again, we didn't have to implement cameras in the game. We could just work on it in one place, publish it, and then pull it into whatever game we wanted, and everything should be there, relatively straightforward to just set up properties. Which again, really helped the speed. Actually helped us really get this trailer. So Adam, do you remember which button it was?
I think it's the right square bracket.
There we go. That sounds right.
Has that worked? And that also changes your position to go to the right place to start the shot.
Yeah, and it changes my. I think if I that's it. Yeah. So we'll notice now my camera and my character is kind of running on a slightly different camera perspective. So instead of now having one of the built-in, what we call it the action camera sitting behind the player, we're now actually kind of in a custom camera, a camera that's fixed position behind the player. and I can use the arrow key to kind of rotate in 90-degree increments around the character. But we also see that my character doesn't rotate. The mouse has no effect. So this was kind of a way that we, as I say, we wanted to make sure that this character had a fixed line. So when we were sort of stitching the footage together, we could stitch it together in a way that the basic player wasn't jumping around and the environment could just cut around them. And again, we could do certain things in post, but we opted to make sure everything worked within Crayta and doable with Crayta. So again, this sort of camera perspective, there's no reason why this sort of thing couldn't to your own game. If you kind of have an interest game based around this sort of camera perspective, that'd be really quite fun. And then it was just a case of just lining up kind of time when we run across. So about now.
Ooh, I think I actually got hit there.
Oh, I got trapped by the doors.
Oh, sorry.
So the doors again. Here we've just got a trigger box in the world. So when we trigger, we sort of animate with the doors. Probably worth noting at this point. So this door mesh is actually a fixed mesh in Crayta with the door attached. We're not doing any special code around moving the doors to be open. We're actually just telling the door to play an animation. And that animation is it's just called opening. Tell this door to do its opening. We see that it does like a little bit of a stutter and it opens, allows characters to pass through. So we have several doors and those sorts of real world entities that you can pass animation. Various flags, for example, activate and flags will windmills spin, all just with a simple one-line in code, which is really quite fun.
I think the last thing to mention about this shot, as you sort of come across this bridge and open up the doors, you get this sort of blinding white light, which we wanted to fade into our next shot, which is in the hub, which is all very white and sort of clean and everything. And actually, there's no smoke or mirrors here in terms of the trailer. That is literally just a very bright white wall. And if you go through and turn around, you'll actually see that is literally just the white neon voxels, just as a big sort of voxel cube that we put right behind the door with no collision on, so we can run straight through it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So again, that looks like a light. It looks like we're shining a really bright light, but actually that's just one of our voxel meshes. So a lot of the voxels in Crayta are actually quite interesting, powerful, powerful things. So we've seen several around here, like these jungle bushes, for example, are just voxels that sort of scatter at the top. And the neon voxels is another case of where it kind of appears to be like a in the scene, but it's just regular voxels face down. It creates a really nice effect, actually. Okay, well, that kind of brings us to the end of the trailer. As I say, that the last part of the trailer is in the hub, but it was nothing we did in there was particularly any different to through the rest of the trailer, apart from the pan out at the end and that sort of thing. But we'll play it in the corner anyway. Let's play. The prop hunt scene was one that we wanted to get a little bit of humour in there, and we thought it'd be quite. Reach the toilet down the bottom. Yeah, so I hope that's been useful. Hope that's been interesting to people. I know we had quite a lot of fun making this trailer. Occasionally I just have to remind myself that this is my job. You spend all day playing around in this incredibly powerful game engine, making trailers. So that was really good fun. To say, I hope that's been useful to everybody. I know I had sort of potential little audio issues, but hopefully the footage is better this time at least. And we are working at home, having to do our best on our home broadbands, internets, and setups. Yeah, that's been great. Make sure you subscribe here on YouTube. We've got plenty of content coming out in the coming weeks, which will go into all sorts of different areas to development in Crayta. You can subscribe to our Discord. If one of the mods could share a Discord chat, that'd be. And yeah, we'll make sure you subscribe to us, as I say, and sign up for notifications. Get notified when we're next be streaming. Adam, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, just thanks for watching, and I hope everyone found that really interesting and insightful. Go watch the trailer again, and sort of this time you'll understand how every single shot was pieced together, which would be really cool.
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, make sure you share the trailer with your friends as well. yeah, it was a really quite a unique trailer for any game. Brilliant. Okay, thank you everybody. We'll see you in the next stream.
Bye.